Hello guys, welcome to Daddy Share Space and welcome to my shop. So today we're going to touch on the Mafell, but before I touch on that, I got this tool set in the mail. This is going to go with the KHC rotary hammer that Festool makes. So let's just open it up and take a look at it. It's just some low cost brand that I picked up. So you can take a look here. I think it has like 17 parts. It has a scoop chisel, a pointed chisel, 2 flat chisels, and then an assortment of drill bits that we're going to test out when we get the KHC in shop. It should be being shipped to me right now. It was released on the 12th, so I look forward to going ahead and trying these bits out with that tool. Now of course these are not super high quality bits, so I'm not expecting a whole lot from it. I just want to get an idea of how the tool works and get a little bit of a comparison between the BHC and the KHC rotary hammers. This will be the first rotary hammer that I have in my shop that offers the chisel function, so that's going to be a welcome addition to the shop. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to the Mafell DDF 40 Dual Doweler. So right here we have the Mafell DDF 40 Dual Doweler. I've done an unboxing of this on my channel. You can go back through my catalog and find that video. Now let's just go ahead and open it up. You can see it right there. Let's just pull it out and get started. So I was looking at the domino the other day. I did a little video where I was just showing all the different sizes of bits that you can utilize with the domino. And then yesterday I pulled out the lamello and did a couple of cuts with that. So today I'm gonna do a few cuts with this particular tool, which is the DDF 40. It is a dual dowel machine. Basically what that means, if you're not familiar, is it's a machine that you utilize to place dowels. These are 2 of the drill bits that came with the tool here. And the device itself comes with 2 sets of drill bits. There are 2 that are in the machine right now. There are a few more sizes of bits that you can buy for this machine if you choose to, and this machine has a bigger brother that makes up to, I believe, a 1/2 inch dowels for that one. And so if you wanted to cover the whole range of dowels that Mafell covers, you would need to buy both machines. That is something that I'm looking at potentially doing in the future, but for right now this is what we have in shop, and let's go ahead and just make some holes with it. This video is not really an overview, it's not an unboxing, we've already done that. We want to just see how it functions and just take a little bit of a closer look. Over time I'll be releasing videos like this about tools like this, simply because I mean I bought them, so why not? So taking a closer look at the tool, you can see that this has a very similar function to the lamello and also the domino. It's similar to the lamello and the domino because you do have the fence that folds down in the front, as you can see here. So that gives you a surface to register on your material, and you tighten that down with the thumb screw here. Now, like the domino, this also gives you the ability with this particular knob here, you can raise the whole base of the machine up. So with this particular machine, you have a secondary knob here that you can loosen, and once you loosen it, there's a knob here, and that knob gives you the ability to rotate it, and that allows you to raise the fence to a higher level so that you can change the depth of your cut of your drill bits. So as you see the Mafell Dual Doweler in its highest setting, as I rotate it to the top here, we can compare that to the Festool Domino, which I have here, and we can see how far it elevates by comparison. So once I loosen the domino and I raise it up, and actually it is in its highest position. So the lowest position for the domino is here. The highest position is right there, and I lock that in. So you can see a difference there. this much room here and this much room over here. So that gives you a lot more flexibility with this one. And just looking at the mechanisms, you see that the domino is just kind of push it up. There is an indicator back here to let you know what the height is, but you kind of gotta, you know, eyeball it or set it and then lock it. Whereas the Mafell, there are some grooves back here, and it works almost like a rack and pinion, where you can really dial it in exactly where you want it to be, which I find is, by comparison, that's a superior method to be able to raise and lower this particular fence. So I'm going to set this domino back aside, and let's plug this into the vacuum, and let's make some cuts. Now, the one thing I like about these tools, the Lamello, obviously the Domino, and then the Mafell, they all are very compatible with the Festool dust extraction system. So this is just going to snug on top, and with it in place, I can just turn it on and it should turn on my vacuum. Now, this is a push button start, so there is no toggle that you have to push. I do like this. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead, and we have a piece of wood right here that we're going to utilize, and we're going to go ahead and make a plunge. So as you can see right here, the height of where we are on the material. So the fence obviously is not touching. You can slide this back and forth. I can move this down, and as I move it down, it's actually lifting the Mafell up in the front so that I can go higher up on my piece of wood that I have here. So what I'm going to do is, let's try it at its highest position, which is right here, and we'll go on the end. And as I'm looking down at the top, there are lines that indicate where my bits are going to go into the material. But there's also a center line. So if I want to mark a center, I can do that as well. So I'm going to hit the button to power it up. And let's check my settings. So one is set to a 15mm depth. And we'll go ahead and power the machine up. Festool dust extractor was able to get all of the dust out, so there's no dust in the hole. You can see as I tapped it on the table, there's nothing to come out. So you could take a look right here and see where the holes are. Now that is set at its lowest setting on the machine. So that was me. With this loose, I got it all the way down as low as it can go, close to the table. Now, what we're going to do is, let's go up to, let's see what the range is on this particular material. So this is the lowest. As I drop it, let's go all the way to the base of the material and see what that's going to give us. Now, obviously, if I was plunging into this off of the table, I could go even lower, but we're going to see what the lowest setting is with it registering on top of this piece of material that we have here. All right, so we're going to fire up the tool. All right. So if we can look in this top-down camera, you can see this is plunge 1, plunge 2, so you can see the variation here, and obviously we can get it in the center just by dialing it in with the dial here. All I have to do is dial it up and down to find my spacing. So right off the bat, I would say the ability, when holding this Mafell domino, it is a very It is a premium feeling device, if that makes sense. As I adjust it up and down, it is very tight. It's not loose. I don't feel any slop in the controls as I go up and down, which is very nice. This does have the ability to go in at the different angles from 90 all the way down to 0. So you can do your 45s with this particular piece. Now let's go ahead and do like we did with the Zeta P2, and let's go ahead and make a 45 with this particular setup. Let me find another cutoff. Right here we've got a piece of wood, 45-degree angle, and actually this is not the same size, but you know what, I'm not even going to worry about it. What we're going to do is draw a line across here like we did on with the lamello, and we're going to join these two boards at a 45-degree angle. Today I'm a little bit more prepared. I was able to find my pencils, and I got them all set up and organized so that I could locate them. So we'll just make a line across here, and then I'll plunge into both pieces of material, and we'll take a look at where the holes end up. So let's see if we can get this dialed into the center. So we know that if we want this to be higher, we can go all the way to the max setting. Let me see if I can dial it into the center of this board. So right here is flat on the table. If I want to get it to the center, let me look and see if there are markings on the side of the device that give me an indication of where the center will be. And I don't see a line like I saw on the Zeta P2. However, what I'm going to anticipate is that there's a little square portion here, or actually no, I do see a line. It's just difficult to see in the cast iron body. So I'm going to rotate this up to where I think the center is, or close to it, and I think that's just a little low. Let's go up a little bit more. Think about there. That's close. It's not perfect, but I think it's close, and we're going to go ahead and go with that. So we're going to fire up the machine and plunge here. Okay, so if you take a look there, you can see where the holes are. And we're going to try to do that same thing with this cutoff piece. Now, something that you should take note of when you use the Mafell DDF 40 is the plunge is not quite as easy as when you utilize the lamello Zeta P2 or the domino. And I think it's because this is strictly a drill spinning motion, whereas with the domino you have a spinning and a waggle, which I think makes it a little bit more of an aggressive machine in making the cut. So it seems to plunge into the material a little bit more easily than a DDF 40. Contrarily, the lamello has a disc that spins around like this, and so it has very little trouble plunging into the wood. Now, it's not to say that this has trouble plunging. I just noticed that it requires a little bit more force to use the machine. So we're going to line that up. Now, ideally, I would have this piece clamped so that I could put all my efforts behind advancing the machine. But as you can see, I'm trying to hold the piece of work and plunge at the same time, which makes it a little bit more challenging, but it's still doable, as you can see. So we'll take a couple of our dowels here. You can see them in the shot there. And we will plug them in to the larger piece. And let's tap those in. Now, of course, when you're using dowels, you have to be more exact. By comparison, when you're using the domino, you have the different settings, so you can make it a little bit wider. And the slot groove in the lamello also provides a little bit more flexibility as far as positioning. When you get this needs to be spot on, right? If it's not, then you're just gonna have a joint that's not going to settle in properly. I really like the way that that comes together. It's nice and snug, even though it came together well, and I could pick this up by this portion, even by this portion. So that means it's a good, pretty snug fit. However, it does not clamp in like the lamello because there's no clamping that's pulling it together. Let me see if I can find that piece for the lamello. So by comparison, if we take a look at the lamello joint, the lamello joint is pulled snugly together. And even though I can bend it out to crack it, this one here does not come as closely together. It's taut, right? I can pick this joint up by this portion, you know, obviously this side, just as I can this one. But this joint here is a lot more, the seam is more hidden as opposed to here. This appears like I would have to use more clamping force to put it together, or there is the possibility that the dowel itself is a little bit too long and that could be causing a little bit of separation, but I don't think that that's what it is. I just think that this is not quite as seamless of a joint. And it also could be too, these two pieces of wood that I put together may not be cut as well as these two to marry up. I guess the only way to test that would be to take these dowels out, use the lamello Zeta P2, make a groove, and use the clamping device for this one to see if I had the same type of separation on the wood there. Look at the back side of this. Another thing I noticed too, I see a little bit of gap here on the back of the Zeta P2 assembly, but I noted that when I noticed that when I was working with the lamello Zeta P2 yesterday, and the fact that if you put the connector towards the top, then it will pull it together at the top, kind of like wedging it like this. So you really want it to be in the center, so it's pulling both pieces of wood together at the core center of your work, as opposed to if you put the connectors at the top towards the top of your cut, then it'll have a tendency to pull together at the top, but the bottom may actually have a degree of separation right here. So that's just something to take note of. We've seen with these the types of mortises that the DDF-40 can do. The only variation is the fact that we have different sizes of bits, and I do only have one other size of bit that came with my machine. So the DDF-40 has two different settings. So let's say you had a dowel, let's say it's a 30mm dowel, and you want to plunge 15 into each piece of work or something like that. Let's make it odd. Let's say it's a 30mm dowel and you want to plunge 10 into one side and 20 into other. 10 into one side and 20 into the other. There's a 1 and a 2 here, and you can set each one to a particular setting or number so that you can toggle back and forth between two different plunges. That way, let's say if you are dealing with, say, a piece of plywood and you're going into something thicker, or maybe you're going from the thin side of a plywood or face of plywood into the long edge, the long grain of plywood, then obviously you can go deeper into the long end of the plywood, or the edge, if you will. So if this was plywood, you can go deeper into this portion, then you would be able to plunge into the surface of plywood. So that would require two different settings because your dowel doesn't get shorter or longer. And so as a result, what you would do is say plunge, if it was 18mm plywood, you may plunge down 9mm into, or 10mm down into your plywood. But then if your dowel is 30mm, then you can plunge 20mm up into this portion of your plywood, which would 10 plus 20 equals 30. So that would conceal your whole dowel in that situation. So there's a 1 and a 2, so you can set those two settings, and right here you can switch back between the 1 and the 2, and that's going to determine which one you're going to do. Now when you're going to do the blade change, there's a setting right here at the top. You can switch it all the way up to that, and that's what locks it when I push it down. And now it's locked into place so that I can change the bits. So anyways, guys, this is just a short little look at the DDF-40 Mafell Dowler machine. I'm going to be doing plenty of videos about this, about my Lamello Zeta P2 and also my Festool Domino. And obviously it's because I do own them. So as I learn more about these machines and as I practice doing different things with them, I will do short little videos or even longer form videos to show you how I've learned to use them. And this may help you to make a choice for yourself if you decided to purchase a machine such as the DDF40. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you so much for taking time to watch the video, and I will see you soon.